Sparks will rise when two world champions plays against each other, and that's what happened in this game between Robert James Fischer or Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. Robert Fischer is the only U.S. chess champion, world champion of all time, and Boris Spassky is the 10th world champion. So this is the Queen's Gambit, declined three knights variation that is being played now, and Bishop goes to e7, getting ready for castling on the king's side, and Bishop goes to g5. Fischer is playing with the white pieces, and uh, Spassky immediately castles on the king's side, and e3 is played, creating the pawn structure of Queen's Gambit, and h6 is played, attacking the knight so that it retrieves to h4, and b6 is played with the intent of bringing your bishop to uh, uh, b7 later on, and after the pawn is taken, the knight takes the pawn, and the bishop get exchanged, and the queen takes the bishop, and after that the knight takes knight, and the pawn takes the knight as well. So rook goes to c1, placing it in a very good semi-open line, and the bishop goes to e6, protecting the pawn and activating the bishop, and also protecting the f square of the king of Spassky, and then queen goes to a4, and now this move c5 is played, and Fischer simply places his queen at a3. Now you cannot move this pawn here right now because this queen is undefended, and the moment you move this pawn, the queen will be gone. So the pawn exchange is not possible right now. So now the rook comes to c8, and maybe probably he was looking to push the pawn, and bishop comes to b5. Now a6 is played, even though it's not attacking the bishop right now, but if you take, the rook will be gone. You'll get a rook in exchange basically. So after the pawn exchange, now Fischer also castle on the king side, very late castling, and the rook moves to a7. Now you have to move this bishop, and because the queen provides support for the rook, so this bishop retrieves to e2, and the knight jumps to d7, and knight goes to d4. Again, this pawn is pinned, and so you cannot take the knight, and because this queen is unprotected, you can play that move, and that's Fischer for you. So once the queen goes to f8 with the protection of the queen and the rook, now you'll have to move the knight. So the knight goes to e6 and captures the bishop, and the pawn takes the bishop, and e4 is played. Now instead of taking back and creating a bad pawn structure overall, Spassky pushed the pawn to d4 and creating a pass pawn for himself, and f4 is played by Fischer, and e7, queen to e7 is played by Spassky, and e5 follows, and after that the rook goes to b8, trying to attack this weak pawn over here, and then the bishop goes to c4 with the intent of pushing this pawn, and then later on this pawn here, creating this nice little pawn structure, and also attacking the king at the same time. So because there is an extra attack on the king had to move, because this pawn is pinned and you cannot do anything on the pawn, and the moment it get another attack, this pawn will be gone, or you'll have to defend it. So now the queen goes to h3, trying to attack the king, and bishop knight goes to f8, and b3 is played, creating this mutual support structure with the bishop and the pawn, and it also cancels this rook's line. So the pawn to a5 move is played, trying to disturb the pawn structure. So after the f5 move, the e into f5 is played, and the rook takes the pawn back, and with the intent of doubling up the rooks, and the knight goes to h7, and the other rook comes to f1, and the rook battery is formed now, creating an attack on the king, and all the three pieces, that the queen and both the rooks and even the bishop, are angling towards the king, and Fischer's pieces are very active, and that's why Fischer is slightly or maybe up in the game in a major way uh, at this level basically. Now the queen goes to g3, creating an attack on this weak pawn over here, and now the rook comes to e7, attacking this pawn, and also with the intent of bringing your other rook here and creating a battery to protect this weak pawn over here, because that's where all the attack will happen, and that the other pawn came into b7, and e6 is now played, creating two threats. One is that you strengthen, you can place your rook here. There are three pressure points here, and also this rook, with this move, this rook attack this pawn here, and it can be taken if it's not supported. So the rook goes to c7, and queen goes to e5, attacking that weak pawn against the king. And now the queen goes to e8, uh, trying to nullify the pressure here. You still have this bishop as an extra attack over here, and there are four pieces at this square basically. And after a4, all the pieces, all the pawns on the queen side are well protected, and now the basically the queen just go to d8. Spassky was basically out of moves, and the rook goes to f3, and after the bishop goes to d3, the queen again goes to e8, and he basically tries to move his piece here, creating an extra attack, and probably placing it here, creating a check, and it will be a checkmate basically. So the knight jumped to f6, seeing that, and basically Fischer just capture that knight. And this what happens now is that this exchange basically damages the pawn structure, and the king is entirely exposed now, and the king had to go to g8 towards its uh, uh, pieces, and now the because of the extra attacking again had to move to h8, and now it's checkmate all along the board. And at this position basically Spassky resigned the game. So I'll show you a continuation. So if the queen goes to g8, the you could still place this move and capture the queen, but Fischer went for will go for checkmate. So checkmate is on the board. Then the pawn push to after the pawn push to e7. This basically cuts off this rook battery, and then you can place your rook here and create an attack. But sacrificial moves, like these are engine moves basically. And after the check, basically this rook is taken, and after the check, it's game over basically. Because the king cannot move here because of the bishop's threat here. And earlier, like here in this position, you could also play this move basically. So you can take this. So instead of playing this, you can just take this pawn here over here. So if you take the pawn, there's a discovered check, and after, even if you know this rook takes the queen, next move it will be a checkmate because there's a bishop here and check, and the king is basically trapped, and this position is covered by king's own rook, black rook basically. So there's no place for the king to go. So that's how the game ended. This is the world championship match. So and James Fischer won this match, and I think he went on to win the cup as well. So thanks very much for watching. So have a nice day. We'll be back with more such videos.